Hello, hello everyone. So it looks like we are live. Awesome. So this is my very first streaming video, and I have a class planned for you guys that's going to be over variables. And so I'm going to just wait a few moments to get started to see if more people join here. And so variables are basically very important in programming. And one of the first things you learn when learning a new language. So we're going to go over variables for JavaScript. And JavaScript is very, very, very important because it's one of the main programming languages to make websites. So it's very valuable to learn if you want a very lucrative career in programming. So okay. So what I would suggest you do is you should go ahead and download a software called Visual Studio Code, and that's a good software to use to start programming in JavaScript. And so, let me see here. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Alright, so here's the code editor that we're going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and this folder is going to be, or this new file is going to be where we're going to do our code. So I'm going to name this file app.js. So alright, so right there we have our app.js, and let me see if any more joined here. Alright, so okay, and so what we have here is app.js, and let's go ahead and introduce our concepts. So we're going to go over variables, and here's an example of variables. So we have var x equals 5, var y equals 6, and var z equals x plus y. And so so you're gonna see that this x is gonna be equal to this 5, and this y equals to 6. And then guess what z is gonna be? It's going to be 5 plus 6. And a good way to log your results is I'm going to do a console log, console.log, and then my result is z. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So that's how you write a console.log. A console.log is going to log to our terminal. I have Node.js installed, so I don't have to run an HTML file, but I can go ahead and run it in my terminal, and I can do that by typing node, and then let's see, let's run an ls to see my files in the directory. Okay. Alright, so we have our app.js inside our directory right here. And so what I would do is I can say node and then do app.js, and that will run our file. So as you can see in line 5, it prints out the z, which is the 5 plus 6. So that's the first bit I want to show you. And I want to let you all know that basically one thing about the variables is var is old syntax. So there's this thing called Es6 syntax for JavaScript. And so um and so what I want to say is there's more options in ES6, which you can say let a equals 2, and let is kind of a better version of var for certain reasons, such as scope reasons, which I'll show you guys later regarding the scope of the let. But let is a more modern syntax for like declaring a default variable. It works much similar to var, where if you say let b equals 3, and then you can say let b equals, I'm sorry, you can say let c equals a plus b, and so we have that there. And guess what that's going to output? That's good. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So it's going to be the 2 plus the 3. And so to output that answer, I'll set this to C, and then I'm going to save, and then I'm going to go ahead and run it. And so yeah, that the a plus b is 5. So you see that. So you see that result there. So yeah, so you can use let. It's a more modern syntax. And also there is const. Const is also a keyword that you can use to declare variables, which is new to ES6. And for the const, you can do constant h equals 5. And then the thing that's special about const is you cannot change it once you assign the variable. So assigning a variable means, so you see this equals sign there, the equal sign? It means that the h is being assigned a 5. And so the value of h is 5. So I'm going to print the value of h here. just to show you. I'm gonna save, and then I'm going to run it. And then, yeah, so it shows that the value of h is 5. So that's going to be, um, of course, it's going to be 5 since we assigned it there. So now the next thing is, what if we change the value in between then and the time we display it? So what if we do h? So when you want to change a value, you don't have to use the declaration keyword again. You just use the variable name itself, and then we do h. Let's say we want to change h to a 6 instead of a 5. We can do that, and then guess what's gonna happen. Let's go ahead and run this. Oh no. So what happened is we got an error message. Assignment to constant variable. Type error. So basically, if we get a type error, assignment to constant variable, that means that we cannot assign a variable that's a constant. So if it's constant, it has to remain constant. So once you assign h for the first time to 5, that means it will always be 5 forever, and you cannot reassign it or it will be an error. So but if you do want to change a value, you can certainly declare a let or a var, and you can go ahead and change that here. So I assign k to a 4, but what I want to do is I want to change it before I display it. So I want to say k equals 2. And what's going to happen now? I'm going to go ahead and display the value here in my console.log, which is k. Then I'm going to save it. And then we're going to go ahead and run that. Boom, 2. So it did not give me an error this time because I changed k, which is not a constant, which let and var you can change to whatever you want after you first assign it. Unlike constant, where constant always has to be the same value. They're pretty good if you have variables that don't change, like such as maybe a URL, such as pi, and things like that. Let me check here. Has any additional people joined here? Okay. Alright. So, alrighty. Now let's go to our next part here. So there's JavaScript numbers. JavaScript is a loosely typed language. That means that in the variable keyword, we don't differentiate from what type it is. So let me go ahead and clear this. I'm gonna go ahead and you'll see a lot of legacy code with var, but I'm gonna go ahead and change this to let. And then so here you have let x equals 3.14, let y equals 3. And so in JavaScript, you can either assign the variable a number with decimals or a number without decimals. So in other languages, it could be something like int x, or with the decimals, it would be float x, and without the decimals, it would be int y equals 3. But with JavaScript, we just say let because it's loosely typed, and then once we assign it a type, it will automatically take on that type after we assign it. So since we assign x to 3.14, x automatically knows that it is a float variable. So those are the two types of numbers there. And also we can assign the variables a string. So for instance, instead of just a number, you can say let my message equals hello world. So we have hello world here, and it's going to be my message, and I'm going to display it in the console.log. So what this is, words in the quotation here, is called a string, and this is going to be a type of string. And then when you do the console.log, I'm going to go ahead and run it. It gave me an error here. K is not defined. Oh yeah, I deleted it. So remember, since I have the my message, I called the variable my message, I have to use my message here. So that's what was wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and run that. And so boom, hello world. See it says it here. And so that's how I would print a message to the terminal using a string. So you can put essentially anything you want inside a string. You can say hello galaxy. Boom. And then I'm going to run it again. And then here we got the hello galaxy. Alright. Another thing with displaying, when you do a console.log, let's say you want to display a string appended to another string. So for instance, you can say let my message 2 equal number 5, and then I'm gonna go ahead and delete that and put that. So I have a message 1 and message 2, and let's say I want to display the message 2 right after the message 1 appending to it, like kind of like a sentence. I'm gonna put a space here, so there will be also a space. And then, so to display that, I can do a plus sign in JavaScript. and then do a my message to, and then I'm going to save that, and then guess what that's going to display? Boom. So it displays hello galaxy number 5. So that's how you would append two strings together, and you can also append other types of variables too, such as, like, let's say I didn't want the hard code the 5 in there in my string. I want a variable to say number 5. So I can say let galaxy number equals 5. So I want to append the galaxy number after this message. I'm going to go ahead and put another space there so it will make sense. And then also I can put a string directly in the console.log function. So instead of even declaring a variable, just to display my exclamation marks, I can just put it straight into there like so. And then I can hit save. And then I can go to node, and so guess what this is going to display. Let's go ahead and test it. So it says hello galaxy number 5. So that's how I can split it up like that. Like even I can like do that, and let's try it again. And then it's hello galaxy number 5, like a excited question. So that's how you would append the variables together like that when you display them. All right, and let's see here. What I have is did anyone let me see, did anyone join up? Oh, okay. All right, and so we have that. And also, I just wanted to say, just really quick, that right now I'm at 11 subscribers, and I'm really working to increase my channel. So if you would please subscribe using the link in the description, that would be awesome. All right, and so our next part. All right, and so basically and math and JavaScript is executed by order of operations. So basically, I'm gonna delete this example. So let's say we have let x equals this. So what's gonna happen is it's going to do order of operations. So the times, it's going to do everything in these parentheses, and then it's going to divide that by 10. So so let's go ahead and run that. And let's display it here, console.log x, and then our x is going to equal, oh wait, actually, yeah, that's right, we just need that for our console.log, and then we're going to print out our x here. So let's go ahead and run that. And so we reran that, and wait a minute, oh yeah, I have to first save it, duh. And then I'm going to go ahead and run that. And so the answer is 0.3. Let's see if we can break that down a bit. So the answer of let y equal, let's go ahead and just put this alone here. And then what is y going to equal? I'm just going to output y right here just so we can break it down. And so y is going to equal 3. So essentially this big thing is going to be let's do this. Let answer equal, and so we already have the answer of y divided by 10. So we see here that y is going to be 3, and then y divided by 10 is going to be, let's go ahead and input our answer here. So our answer is going to be 0.3. So as you can see, it does execute the order of operations and divides it by 10. And so we did a breakdown here of pretty essentially what this did up here. So we have that. All right. So awesome. And let me see here. Let me see, go to the next part. And just want to see what I would like to show next. Oh, I want to also show really quick that, for instance, when you just say let x, this is called declaring a variable. And when you say let x equals a number, this is called assigning a variable. It's declaring and assigning a variable. If you don't assign the variable, it's just called declaring it. And so if you just declare it, what is this going to be? Since you haven't declared it, it's going to be undefined. It's just going to be um, like the actual word undefined. But let's go ahead and test that out here. So let's do console.log, and let's change this actually to Z. So of course we know that X is going to equal to 4 because we assigned it to 4 there. So boom, 4, right? You see the 4 down there. And then, so what is Z going to do? Let's see. So we put our Z in there. We haven't assigned it to anything yet, but yet we're trying to use it. We're trying to display it. Boom. See this undefined. So that means it's not assigned to anything. And there's also a thing called NaN, called not a number. So basically, we went over numbers and strings, and so you cannot do like mathematics on with a string and a number and have like a reasonable answer. So, for instance, let's go ahead and delete this example. For instance, if we say let x equal 100 divided by apple. So what is this going to equal? This doesn't make sense. A number divided by a string. When you put it in quotations, remember it's a string. Strings are mostly words, but you can also put numbers inside a string. It's just going to be this characters, and pretty much you cannot like do mathematics on characters. You can do other things like display them to the screen, but you can't use a string to do mathematics like this. So basically, what if we put our x right here, and then we save it, and then what is it going to print out? Boom, it's going to print out NaN. That means not a number. So even if I do this, that looks more like a number, but it's still a string because of the quotations. So what if I do that? And then I run it. Boom, we get 4.5454. So, wow, that's interesting. So, let me change that to 20. And let's try that again. Wow. So, it looks like in JavaScript, it actually does respect the number inside the quotations to run the division on 100. But if you add a letter there, and then you save, and then you try it, then it's not a number. So actually, you can do mathematics on a string as long as it's a number. So, wow, that's very interesting. It might not be like that in other languages. So, and then you can also take out the quotations to be an actual real number. And then we're going to save it. And then we're going to run it. And so we get the same answer. Wow, that's interesting. I actually learned something myself right there. So awesome. All right. So also I want to mention that I have a free JavaScript textbook that's in a ebook format. It's actually the textbook is actually um, 426 pages long. Let me turn on the lighting really quick. All right, I have a little more lighting on me. So, so basically, I wanted to say that I have an ebook that is 426 pages long, and it's all about JavaScript. It's a textbook. Go ahead. It's for free. Go ahead and download it in my description. All right. So the next thing, let me see. Do we have any more peoples? Okay. All right. So let's go on to our next thing. Also, like if we want to use a hexadecimal, like here's an example of a hexadecimal. So here's an example of a hexadecimal. So an FF is 255. So in JavaScript, you put this 0x in front of what is going to be your hex value. So our hex value is FF, and decimal. Let's see what that will print out. Let's go ahead and do a console.log here and put X here. Then we're going to save that. And then we're going to run that. And boom. Yeah, so we get the 255 there. So that's cool. Alright. And usually in programming languages, there's something called primitive values and objects. So primitive values are pretty much just the regular var x equals like 1, 2, 3. So this would be a primitive value. So also in JavaScript, there's a class or an object called number where it has additional built-in functionalities more than just a regular primitive thing. So if we want to assign our variable, I like to use let y equals this. So instead of it just simply being a primitive variable, it will be a number. A number is an object, and a more advanced lesson will learn more about objects. But a number is an object that is assigned to the 1, 2, 3. So that's an example of initializing or declaring an object. All right. And so also I want to mention really quick that I like teaching these lessons and helping people to learn JavaScript for free, and also I'm an upcoming channel. So also, if you want to support financially, feel free to use my PayPal link in the description, and you can donate even $5 or more, and I would greatly appreciate it. All right, and so let me show you guys another thing here where let me see. I'm going to do a function. So functions, there's like a more complicated thing that I'm going to go over in the future. But anyway, so we have I'm going to make a function here. So just to show you guys something, or to do an experiment, function test scopes. So this is the syntax on how you can begin a function. And then in here, for instance, I want to do let versus var. So let's try some things. So we have a variable, a var x equals 100, and we have let y equals 200. And so inside this function, so one thing different with let is the scope. So let's see how the scope is different. Like for instance, if we try to access x in the function, will it let us? I'm going to, inside the function, I'm going to put in a console.log, and then let's see if it will let us access x. So a scope is basically inside these curly brackets. This means this is a different scope, and this different scope means that so I have a function called test scopes, and anything inside here is a different scope to the things outside here. And so the way you determine different scopes is usually things that are inside these brackets, mostly inside functions, inside these curly brackets, and so this is the scope. So let's see if it will let us access x inside this function scope. So let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Oh yeah, one more thing is, in order to execute our function, we must call it. So in order to call our function, we can simply take the function name, um, and after our function body, which our function body is these curly brackets, after our function body, that's the end of the function. So it will go back to uh, the top level scope, and we can run the we can go ahead and run the function there. So what it does, it runs it from top to bottom. JavaScript runs from top to bottom. So it will declare these variables, and then inside the function, when you declare a function, it doesn't run the function, but it will have the commands inside the function until you call the function. So we'll have the function there, and then we'll call the function on 12. Then it will execute what's inside the function. So let's try that. Boom, 100. Yeah, 100 right there. So it did, the X did let us access it. Now let's see if the Y will let us access it inside the function. Let's see what that does. Oh wow, so it also did let us access it inside the function. Okay, let's see if it will let us change it inside the function. So let's say x equals 6, and then let's run it here. Okay, so it actually let us change the x here to 6, and then we ran it. And let's see if it will do the same for y. Whoa. So that is interesting. Oh, never mind. Oh, wow. Actually, I'm sorry about that, guys. I need to change the console.log. So let's try that last test again, to where um, we try to access y by itself. Okay, so yeah, it lets us access the y. All right, and then let's say y equals 8. Let's see what happens. Does it change the y to 8? Yeah, it does. So it does let us change both. Um, Normally in some programming languages, you would have to first pass in the variable like this in order to access the variable. Actually, so we could do that, and usually it will let you modify it once you pass it in, but it looks like in JavaScript it lets you go ahead and access it. But let's see one more thing. Will it let the is this a copy, or did it permanently change it? So let's say after we um, execute the console.log inside the function, let's go ahead and console.log after the function is over to see if the y value permanently changed. So this scope function is going to be called. It's going to try to change the y to 8, and it does change the y to 8 on line 10, but let's see if it remains 8 on line 15, or if it will change back to 200 outside of the scope. So let's try that. Ooh, so yeah, it actually remained. Well, it actually did change permanently. So as you can see, both are 8. Okay, so would that be the same thing for X? And then I'm gonna display the X down here, put the X in there, and then let's go ahead and run that. Oh, so yeah, same thing for X. And so what if we also declare an X inside here? What if we declare an X inside here? So what we did, um, instead of using this X, we declared our own X inside the test scope. And let's see what this does. Eight and 100. So inside this function, when I declared it here, it made its own copy. It made its own copy and displayed both the 8 and the 100. So does it do the same thing with the Y? And if we say like let, yeah, 8 and 200. So that's very interesting. So the scopes are very similar. So whenever using a function, be careful of changing the variables that are declared outside of the function. If you use the same name and you don't make a copy and you override it here, be very careful of changing it within the function because you might get some unexpected results. So that's one thing about JavaScript that you have to be careful of. And so yeah, um, I'm going to um, look at more resources about let and also get back to you guys either in the comments or the next video about how how exactly the scopes are different between each other. But that's very interesting how they were behaving the same way when we did our experiment here. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Let me see if okay, so all right. All right. So awesome. And so one more thing that I want to say is I have a um, I have a link to some free some free to try classes that are very high quality. If you heard of Skillshare, it's a very high quality platform with JavaScript classes, and I have a link there where if you use my link, you'll get 7 extra days free for your free trial, and of course you can cancel at any time. And if you use my link, it'll give you seven. It will give you 14 days of free access instead of free access to the premium instead of just 7. And remember, you can cancel at any time. So go ahead and check out my link in the description for that. And well, this was my very first live stream, and the lesson that I went over was variables, and I hope to do much more to come. I'm gonna be rolling out some videos as well, and so yeah, I'm gonna be rolling out videos, and stay tuned. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be happy to help people to actually learn JavaScript. All right, this is Jay Coder, and I'm going to sign out for now, and have a great rest of your night.